Good morning, everybody. I'm Mike Naso from IPR with an early morning update on the tropics, and we do have a couple of systems to note out there as we are now August 15th, about 1 month away from the climatological peak of hurricane season. When we look out at the name list for this year, obviously Andrea, Barry, Chantal, Dorian have all been used up. We have Tropical Depression 5 out there, which is right on the edge of becoming Tropical Storm Erin, and very likely in a couple of hours will be upgraded. And then the next name after that is Fernand, and then we go through the rest of the name list, and we'll see how far down we go this year. It does look like it could be an active season, even though so far it doesn't seem active. We could have two named storms just in the next 24 or 48 hours, which would have us waiting on Gabrielle if that were to be the case. Nonetheless, we do have TD5, and as of 5 a.m. it was at 14.4 north, 25.2 west, and the winds were 35 miles an hour. It's very close to tropical storm strength, and the National Hurricane Center even notes in the 5 a.m. discussion that it might well be a tropical storm as we speak. Moving west-northwest at about 16 miles an hour, so 1,007 millibars. Not very strong at all pressure-wise. And the forecast here is generally that it will continue to move to the west-northwest with a gradual bend as it weakens with drier air and cooler waters and gets caught up in the low-level flow and begins to move further west. And then beyond that, it would be a question of would it regenerate, would it end up dissipating, would it end up moving further in towards the Bahamas. We just couldn't tell you at this point in time. I will tell you though that the ensemble models of the GFS are not too crazy about it, but they generally take it west followed by a bend back to the west. Regardless of how strong it is, they all seem to agree on some sort of bend here to the west, some of them even making it as far as in the Turks and Caicos Islands. But again, a lot of time to watch this, no doubt. Here's more of the model spread, and you can see obviously anywhere from the Turks and Caicos Islands to here south of Bermuda within 5 days, whether it's still a tropical cyclone at that point. If it's as persistent as, say, Dorian was half a month ago, then we'd be dealing with something we might have to worry about, because remember, it is August, and if it can get through the dry air and cooler waters, conditions might be more favorable ahead of that, but that so far out is hard to tell at this point in time. Now when we look at the visible satellite image of Tropical Depression 5, clearly you can see it's looking very well organized and probably a tropical storm at this point, or at least close to it. It could use some deeper convection right around the center of circulation. We of course have those watches and warnings for the Cape Verde Islands, which is a rarity because typically these systems don't impact those islands directly, and there will be some high swells and heavy rainfall as the depression passes to your south. You can see beautiful outflow, especially on the southern and southeast side here flowing. And notice this stable air though. This is what's been the problem for a lot of Cape Verde systems, especially the last few years. Dry air, cool air, stable air. Now further off the screen here, you can see as the sun comes up, there is another large batch of storms, and we'll watch this as it moves off Africa. We are getting to that time of year. Here's another view of our system on the infrared, and you can see it's got convection there. It looks like it's on the border of a depression, minimal tropical storm, and it does look like this will become Erin later today and continue off towards the west-northwest with a gradual bend towards the west. How far it makes it is really a question of whether or not it survives. Now here's the shortwave IR of our other invest here in the Caribbean, which was looking much better defined 24 hours ago. You can see it starting to swirl, and it has seemed to gain latitude. When you watch that loop, clearly the trough is having some effect on it. There's also an upper level feature in the Gulf, so conditions aren't that favorable. In fact, they're more favorable with our depression right now than they are with this. But as it moves on off towards the Gulf Coast, it will bring moisture with it, and there is a high chance that this will develop And again, it will be a race for names, but right now it appears the system in the eastern Atlantic is probably already Tropical Storm Erin, so this would be named Fernand. You can see the model guidance was, it was to the west, then it was to the east, then it was to the west and the east, and now it's starting to become more towards the west, at least this morning, with a lot of these 6Z runs and the 0Z models showing a track towards the northwest and then back west towards Mexico. That would probably allow for more strengthening, warmer waters, and a ridge to the north of it. However, if the center that you saw in that loop appears to be in this area here, you would have to take a whole different perspective on the possible track, and right now it just doesn't look like this scenario would be as likely unless the center was indeed down by say Chetumal, Mexico. Wind shear for the system is decreasing. Conditions are not that unfavorable, but with the trophiness in the North Gulf Coast, there is a lot of wind shear up there. And then in the central Atlantic, the system won't have to contend with shear as much as cooler waters and drier air. We do have some cool waters up here, and if it makes it too far north, it's unlikely it will ever get west. However, if it can hold its own through the shear and dry air, there's always the potential that as the ridging possibly increases, say a week from now, whatever is left of what by then would probably be Erin could find itself under a more safe harbor heading towards the west. Doesn't mean it'd be a hurricane or anything like that, but in August, under a ridge, you always have to keep your eye on those types of systems. Did want to note a lot of people out there thinking the hurricane season is not active. Right now we are right here, and activity is starting to get a little bit more on the upswing here, and you can see it only goes up and then up and then up for the next month, and then it goes down, and then we have a secondary little bump in mid-October before going down again. So right now we are right here. We still have a lot to go as we keep an eye on the tropics. In the Eastern Pacific, it does appear that we have a system trying to start spinning out there. The next name is Ivo, and we'll watch to see if we get that. Regardless, it looks like it should move out in that general direction away from Mexico. And then we had Utor, which tore through the Philippines as a Category 4 typhoon, causing a lot of destruction. It then slammed into China with winds over 100 miles an hour, and there you can see it there still spinning, causing a lot of problems, a lot of heavy rain, a lot of thunderstorms over the Western Pacific, but nothing that looks to be developing at this point in time. So I'm Mike Naso. We'll keep an eye on the tropics the next several days. We're getting busier and busier. Do not let your guard down anywhere, and keep an eye on Tropical Depression 5 and the system near the Gulf. Both could have impacts on land masses. I'll see you next time.